nerdy, especially when it comes to sleep. I'm Danny Lavelsberger, by the way. Hi. I'll be your expert. I love that you call it expert.
Very
I don't know if I'm
important.
an expert, but I've been doing it for 21 years, so I have some good fun facts. But one of the ones that everybody always remembers is one that you can share with your family or on a trivia quiz. Have you ever been, you're kind of falling asleep. So it's between wake and stage 1, which I'll explain in a little bit. But you feel that you're falling asleep, right? And then all of a sudden you jump, right? Like almost like an electrical shock. And some of us will actually see ourselves stepping and falling, like miss a step or a trip, right? They don't know why we envision tripping or whatever, but what it is, it's not dreaming. Even if you can see yourself walking, you're not dreaming because you haven't reached that level yet. You're still in a very light level of sleep. What that's called is a hypnagogic hallucination. Doesn't that sound really like, woo? And really, in layman's terms, your brain does exactly what our electronics do. It just has an electrical glitch. It's trying to fall asleep, and some circuits kind of, and you wake up. And everybody does. Like, I've taught this class for 12 years, and every time I bring it up, most of the class goes, oh yeah, I've had that happen before. It's very normal for it to happen. If it starts happening more and more often and it's disturbing your sleep then that's something you should mention to your doctor. But if it's just happening like it usually happens and you feel your heartbeat in your throat, just tell yourself, oh, I just had a hypnagogic hallucination and go back to sleep. Because it's
when those little green men keep taking me out.
That's normal. Is this something somebody else has happened?
I guess not.
No, I haven't seen the green men yet. You are too. I want to be like her Starbucks buddy. I love her.
Starbucks. We put something in that Starbucks. A little stronger than a shot.
You stay after class. Oh, it's so fun to be doing this again. When I walked in, I was like, oh my gosh, it feels normal. It's been so long. It's been about 1.5 years, and I've been teaching this online. It's just not the same. I can hear you guys' laughter. I can look in your eyes. On Zoom, it's just me looking at the same PowerPoint that you are. And when I make a joke, everybody's muted. Like, so this is how a bad comedian feels. Can you imagine? Just silence. I'm like, okay, well, page 2. Moving on. It's just not the same. It's not the same. I'm so happy. And everybody seems to be in better moods. And when I stopped at Starbucks, there was 2 ladies there meeting each other. And the woman came in and they took their mask off and gave each other a big hug. And they're like, it's been so long. And I'm like, yes, we're getting back. I know it's not quite normal yet, but we're getting there.
That's really nice.
It was hard to tell what pictures. You couldn't tell if people were smiling or frowning or what their mood was or any of that. It was really hard.
Now let's be truthful. Did you ever meet somebody with a mask on that you thought maybe was kind of attractive and they took the mask down? Or vice versa. This is a big area, right? There was a guy I worked with for a while, and I thought he was a pretty attractive gentleman. Then he took a mask off. I was like, oh, his whole bottom was
like, your eyes are excellent.
Yes,
You've got great eyes.
Beautiful eyes and nice hair.
Lovely forehead.
Woo! Yeah, the mask time, it helped him a little bit. Well, we'll give everybody.
I know, it's about 2 more minutes.
Did anyone ever tell you you look really good in a mask?
It wasn't too bad until he laughed. He looked kind of like, I need to be, I'm not mean, I promise. You look like Mr. Ed. And then so I, of course, thought about online dating, and then when you meet somebody for the first time, it's weird anyway, and then if you have masks on,
yeah.
It's
I wonder,
really
I guess
different.
online dating was actually like online for a while.
So really online. Everything is so different, everything. But it's so good to be back here in this space. And I was sharing before some of you came in, thank you so much for coming. And I really like to, so I've been in healthcare since '96. I've been in sleep since 2000. And one of the things across the medical center that I see, so many patients are just like on autopilot. They just do what they think their doctor wants them to do. They take the pills that the doctors tell them to do, but they don't really research it, understand it. And I just want to applaud everybody here tonight because you are like empowering yourself. Now, I'm not going to promise you that I'm going to be able to fix all your sleep problems. I wish I could. Or your families or your friends, because when it comes right down to it, especially in this nation, we're a group of very sleepy people. And I'm so proud of each and every one of you for taking this time to make your health better. And it's so important. I tell patients all the time, like, we're going to do a sleep study, we're going to figure out why you're not sleeping, but it doesn't end with the data we collect. It keeps going. And we're always finding out new information. And sleep is just as important as diet and exercise. So again, I just want to commend each and every one of you for empowering yourselves and taking your health in control. Because it's hard. It's hard to live a full life outside of your health and then think about how much do I sleep? What do I eat? How much movement I mean, this watch is bugging me like crazy. It's always telling me I've got to work on something, right? Stand up, sit down, stretch, do this, right? So I'm very proud of each and every one of you. And it's not the norm. It's not the norm for people to learn about stuff that makes them healthy. I was sharing my mom is still stubborn, won't go to the doctor, and she just won't take her health. And I ask her, well, what did the doctor say? I don't know, whatever. I just take the pill that he prescribes. And I just know she's not feeling as well as she could be because she's not empowering herself to understand why that pill helps. Maybe she could wean off of it. So just big applause for all of you. I really appreciate you being here. It's awesome. I appreciate you.
Oh, yeah.
Facilitating.
That's all. I just tell people where to go when, and then let the magic happen.
Yeah, the magic will happen. Right?
Well, I think we're good. We could go ahead and get started. So.
And is there people?
Yeah, they're. Well, they might pop in. I don't know.
Traffic's
I know that.
always bad up here.
Yeah.
Time of day. And you'll let me know if they can't hear me.
Yeah, that's what I just sent a thing that said, "Can everyone hear? Okay. Can you guys hear?"
Yes.
Okay, I got none. Thank
Good.
you. All right.
So people online and here.
Perfect.
Isn't that awesome too?
Mhm.
Yeah. So there
We're
is
trying.
benefits to COVID. We've learned how to maneuver and everything. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So do I have an hour?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay. So I'm going to go over this pretty quickly. We'll probably be done in I'll try to keep it at 30, 35 minutes with the bulk of the stuff because I want to leave a lot of time for dialogue. What you guys have questions on, somebody probably online or one of your neighbors has it too, so don't be afraid to ask. There's no weird things that I haven't heard. I shouldn't say that, especially with my new best friend in the class. But she's like, I haven't met me yet, right? But I'm gonna get started. My name is Danny Leibelsberger. I'm a registered polysomnographic technologist, which is just a really fancy way of saying I'm a sleep tech. I started in 2000, and I'm really bossy, so they made me the manager pretty quickly. And I've been doing it ever since. We have a 14-bed lab now at OSU East Hospital, which is about 20 minutes from here. And then we're starting to get our volumes back up, and so we're opening weekend labs. So my lab runs 7 nights a week, about 12 to 14 patients every night. And we are opening the Brain and Spine Institute lab back up. It was closed last October due to COVID and COVID overflow. And they only run on the weekends. They have 4 beds. And then New Albany's about to get a sleep lab. It was supposed to open in September at the beautiful new outpatient building that you guys probably all are right there by Target. I tried to ask for my office to be moved up there, but so far I haven't got any space, but it's gorgeous. That building is so much bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. It's gorgeous. So we're really looking forward to opening that up in September, except the sleep lab up there will only be on the weekends, and we're not going to be able to start that till January of next year. But that'll kind of help us with our volumes. All right. So what we're going to do today is I really like to approach this from 2 angles. I like to talk about the medical side of sleep, kind of an overview of why we test people, what we're looking for medically and genetically, what you might be predisposition to, and what might make you sleepy from a medical standpoint. And then we're also going to talk about what you can do tonight to start sleeping better. That easy. I can give you some tips and tricks that if you want to, you can start them. Tried and true. I've had hundreds of patients come up to me and say, hey, I tried what you said in your class and I'm sleeping better. So I'm going to give you some, I like people to walk out with some things they can try, or maybe a spouse can try, or family members that are struggling with sleep. We're going to do a screening tool that insurance recognizes as a screener for being sleepy. Sleep is kind of difficult because it's what we perceive. A lot of us will wake up and, for example, I wake up and go, oh, I think I slept pretty good. I get up and start brushing my teeth, and my watch downloads my data into my phone, and then it tells me that I didn't sleep as good as I thought I did, right? So we'll talk about that perception and what that means, and we'll do a screener to kind of help you gauge how sleepy you are during the day. And then the sleep hygiene, which is really the meat of it, the tips and tricks and things we can do about our environment and our schedule and our lifestyle, so that you can go and sleep better and then teach family members and friends how to sleep better. You know, your friends on Facebook that at 3 in the morning they go, insomnia, By the way, none of my friends do that anymore because they know they're going to get an instant message from me saying, do you think it's really wise for you to be on Facebook at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep? Do we think that's a solution? The answer is no. It's probably one of the worst things you can do at 3 in the morning, because that leads to scrolling through everybody's thread, looking at chicken tortilla recipes and all that fun stuff, and then realizing when your alarm goes off that you've spent most of your night on the computer. So we'll talk about how to combat that as well. 70 million Americans admit they have a sleeping problem. Being in sleep since 2000, that's 21 years ago. I have seen every walk of life, every ethnic race, every gender, we're all sleepy. We're all sleepy, some for different reasons, but we walk around very sleepy. In fact, I've noticed when I witness people communicating and talking and kind of catching up, small talk, maybe around the water cooler, it's very common for us to say, so how are you doing? And it's a very appropriate answer to go, I'm tired. That's what we expect, because the other person's going to go, yeah, me too. Because we don't have to be. We don't have to be. So I'm hoping that I can share some things that you can take home and do and not be so sleepy. Average American admits that they sleep 6 hours and 40 minutes. I say admits because when I ask somebody how long they slept last night, they usually measure it from the time they go into the bedroom till the time they come out of the bedroom. And there's a lot of time in between that we aren't actually sleeping because we're scrolling to see who else is awake at 3 in the morning. So 37% of Americans admit they've fallen asleep at the wheel. This is a big problem in our country. A lot of times truck drivers will fall asleep where there's been just massive accidents. A lot of the world's huge catastrophes, like the Exxon Valdez, Chernobyl, was actually traced to someone being sleepy. Reaction times cut down. Sleepy drivers is a big problem too, as far as accidents and things like that. All right, so let's get into the medical meat of it. These are some very common sleep disorders that we see at the sleep lab. I highlighted obstructive sleep apnea, insomnia, and restless legs because those are the 3 highest number of diagnoses we see. Of course, we see a lot of obstructive sleep apnea, but that's not all we see. We're a full sleep disorder center, so we treat a lot of different medical problems. And you can have obstructive sleep apnea, and you can have other sleep disorders with it as well that can complicate it. So we'll talk about some of those. Obstructive sleep apnea, I haven't met too many people that don't know what this is now. When I started in 2000, no one knew what it was. And when I would bring the machine out, people would just freak out, like, are you really thinking I can wear that at night? And no one knew what a CPAP machine was. But really, sleep apnea is just stopping breathing at night. And here's another fun fact. We all stop breathing at night. Did you know that? Yeah, it's very normal for us to stop breathing when we change positions. We hold our breath. And there's not a lot of knowledge about why we do that. In fact, sleep medicine is a very new field. It's only been around for about 60 years that we've really been looking at what we do, why we sleep, and why we do it, why we sleep. It sounds like a long time, but we've been looking at our heart, brain, and lungs for hundreds of years. So sleep medicine is kind of what they would call a baby field in the medical field. And especially in Western medicine, we're just now taking it important. Eastern medicine, they knew they had to sleep and they've kind of prioritized it. Over here, 20, 30 years ago, if you slept a lot, you were labeled what? Lazy, right? It's not a healthy thing to sleep a lot, it's lazy, right? I remember my grandfather at the kitchen table, he would come out for breakfast and my mom would say, Dad, how did you sleep last night? And he'd be like, oh, I don't feel like I slept at all, I'm exhausted. And everybody would giggle because we heard Grandpa snoring last night, sawing logs. And to us, if you're sawing logs, that means you're sleeping really deep. We didn't know Grandpa was actually stopping breathing, and the snoring we heard was his body trying to wake him up to get the oxygen he needed. And that's what sleep apnea is. And what happens is when you stop breathing, by the way, when I say normal, we look at a whole night of sleep, and normal is if you stop breathing 5 times or less an hour. Anything above that is abnormal. And we count breathing events as 10 seconds long. They have to make your oxygen desat in your blood by at least 3 to 4%. And they have to be followed by an arousal in your brain waves. So that's going to be important when we talk about what we look at during a sleep study. And if you have any questions as I go, because I do get excited and I talk really fast, and I was sharing with my new friends that I have ADD, so I'm all over the place, please, you don't have to save your questions till last. It's no problem. Okay. All right, so obstructive sleep apnea is when we stop breathing more than 5 times an hour. And I've actually seen people stop breathing in the upwards of 120 to 130 times an hour. And it's very difficult to watch. It blows my mind. The average people we see are kind of in the moderate level. They stop breathing 20 times to 50 times an hour. And then we've got some light OSA people like around 9 or 10 to 15 times an hour. But I have seen 127 times an hour. I'll never forget the first time I saw it, because before sleep medicine, I come from an emergency medicine background. And when you're on an ambulance, when someone stops breathing, that's a big deal. So you can imagine when this person stopped breathing 127 times an hour, my first instinct was go in and breathe for them. But he was doing it every night. And what happens is when you stop breathing, yes?
Well, what's normal? How many times did you want it?
So respiratory rate's usually around 16 to 18 times a minute. We don't look at how many times you're actually breathing per hour. We look at how many times you stop breathing per hour. And if you, like I said, if it's 5 times or less per hour, no problem. That's not a problem. But if you stop breathing any more than 5 times or more an hour, you definitely are cutting into your sleep time. And we'll talk about why that interrupts our sleep cycles. So sleep apnea is when your throat closes, when you're sleeping, and it gets worse as we get older. It's usually higher in men than it is in women up until menopause, and then it's kind of an even playing field. It's got lots of symptoms. Snoring is one of them. Snoring doesn't mean that you have it. It just means it usually comes after that pause in breathing. Regular snoring is kind of a nice, as you breathe, right? Sleep apnea snoring is, I'm not breathing, I'm trying to get that air. You could actually hear the obstruction in the person's throat with sleep apnea. Waking at night, gasping for air, witnessed apneas. A lot of times when patients come in and we ask, why are you here? They say, well, my spouse said, if I don't come get treated, they're going to kick me into a different bedroom, or they already have. That's very common. So we do save some marriages, by the way. But yeah, that's witnessed apneas because, again, we don't know what we do when we sleep. So a lot of times I get caught in the middle of a husband and a wife or two spouses arguing, well, you snore. No, I don't, you know. But do you really know if you do or not? Because unless you record it, we don't really know, right? So a lot of spouses send their significant others our way. And then morning headaches. When you stop breathing at night, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, and your oxygen goes down. So it does lead to high blood pressure. A lot of cardiac issues can result from it. I had a student one time ask me, hey, does sleep apnea kill you? And I'm like, well, it won't kill you in one night. It won't kill you in 2 nights. But if it goes untreated for 10, 15 years, it leads to diabetes, cardiac issues, all kinds of things. So yes, and it's a slow, long killer, not an immediate killer. Risk factors, family history. If mom, dad, brother, sister have it, there is a highly likelihood that other family members would have it. Obesity, large neck size is a big one. If you have a very collapsible airway, some of us were blessed with big, strong airways. It was one of the best compliments that they ever told me. I came out of surgery, and the nurse anesthesiologist told me, you have one of the hugest airways. It was so easy. And I was like, yes. I never thought I'd be so happy to have someone tell me I had something big about my anatomy, but I was very happy that day. Because unfortunately, genetically, some patients come in and they have a very thin and crowded airway that collapses really easy. So as we go to sleep at night, especially when we go into REM sleep or dreaming, our bodies go into a state of paralysis, so we don't act out our dreams. So that you're fighting the bad guy in your dream, you're not actually punching your bed partner. That would be sad. So we go into this paralyzed state, and unfortunately what happens is our muscles relax, and if you have a very collapsible airway, you have trouble keeping that airway open. So that can lead to worse obstructive sleep apnea as well. In fact, we have a lot of football players and weightlifters with sleep apnea because they get that huge neck with the muscles and everything, which is awesome for an athlete or if they want to look a certain way. Unfortunately, when they go to sleep at night, if they have a collapsible airway, all that mass can easily collapse the airway. Increasing age, of course, I think everything gets worse as we get older. Male gender and postmenopausal, and then certain medications, certain muscle relaxers, some sleep aids tend to make it a little bit worse. So you have to be careful if you have sleep apnea as far as what medications you're taking as well. So someone got really mad at me last year when I was teaching this class because I said CPAP is still the only cure. So that's why I put it in quotes, because he said, it doesn't cure it unless you're wearing it. And I said, you're exactly right. But it is the only thing right now that takes you from having sleep apnea and say, stop breathing 10 times an hour to 0 times an hour. Because what the CPAP machine does is it delivers pressurized air through a mask down your throat, and it extends your airway and keeps it open. So with a CPAP mask on, you can't stop breathing because that air is pushing your airway open. There are other treatments. We've made great advances in a lot of these. We've got some dental devices, not the ones that you boil and get off the internet or on the, people will call me all the time, go, I've got the dental device. I boiled it, I put it in my, it helps minutely. The dental device I'm referring to is when you go to a dentist that's sleep certified, they can fit you for a dental device. It'll actually pull your bottom jaw forward like this, and that will keep your airway open. That won't bring you down to 0 times an hour, but if you can't wear the CPAP machine, it is a good alternative because our goal is to get it as low as possible. And then we have a few different implants coming out. Inspires is one of the most popular and is the one that we see the most of right now. And Inspire, you can hear about it on TV, radio programs have been really pumping it up lately. Inspire is an implantable device. It looks a lot like a pacemaker. It goes under the skin right here, and there's a wire that comes up, and it's actually a nerve stimulator that pushes your tongue forward when it senses that you're not breathing. And that's for people with a certain range of apnea. You have to, most insurance companies require that you at least try the CPAP first because it's less invasive than this right now. But the technology for these implants is coming along to where over the next probably 10 years, we'll see where it's getting almost as good as the CPAP. Because even though it's my line of business, I'm going to tell you, the CPAP is not easy to get used to for most people. We don't like air blown in our face. That's why the dogs hang their heads out the window and not us when we're going down 70. They like it, we don't, right? So you can imagine how hard it is to sell this device to people, especially tired, grouchy people. Hey, I know you're not sleeping good. Put this backwards vacuum on your face and breathe in, right? Yeah, I've done that for 21 years. I'm like, please. The trick is, and I truly believe this, the trick is after you're diagnosed to not think that CPAP is going to fix you overnight. It usually takes about 2 months, which is a long time for us because we like things really quick, right? There's not a pill, there's not a snore strip that's going to fix this. But the CPAP machine will. It just, most people need about 2 months for your body to get desensitized to it, to where it becomes more of a natural thing when you're wearing it at night. It's very common once you start wearing it to wake up in the middle of the night and have it in your hand. I've had a lot of patients tell me that. My husband has been wearing a CPAP for 9 years, and he was very frustrated the first 6 weeks because he'd like, I don't wear it all night because I wake up and it's in my hand. It's because your body doesn't like it and it wants to take it off. And then he stuck with it, thank God, because we both are sleeping better. And he wears it every night now. He's down 45 pounds and been able to keep that off. And he's totally reversed his type 2 diabetes. Now, when I tell you this, I'm not telling you that you're going to start wearing a CPAP machine and all of those problems are going away. However, it will help because when you're sleeping better, you have more energy. When you have more energy, you're more active, so you're losing weight. And when the sleep apnea starts going away, so there's a lot of the problems such as diabetes and high blood pressure. But it is difficult to get used to. It really is. So, but at OSU, we do a really, really good job at following up with you. We always see you about 3 months after you first get your mask to see how you're doing, to see if you need a new mask, to see if we need to adjust the pressure. So I always tell my patients to really stick with it. We'll get you there. It might take 3 or 4 months, but once patients start wearing it and feeling comfortable with it, I've seen lives changed. I've seen people come back a year later that don't even look like the same person that came through our doors. But I also hear a lot of people say, yeah, I got one of those things, but it's in my closet or in my hamper, or I gave it to my neighbor, sold it on eBay. Like, I've heard all of that. It's a little hard to get used to. Pillows do help. They're not going to take it away as much as the CPAP does. They're not going to cure it, as I said. But of course, when we elevate ourselves, that weight on our airway is not going to be as much. Unfortunately, sitting straight up is not a natural way for us to sleep as humans. That's not how we're designed. So we like to at least maybe use 2 pillows instead of, sitting all the way up. But usually a lot of our patients, by the time they get to us, it's very common for us to hear that they're sleeping in a lazy boy, almost straight at a 90-degree angle. So, and that might help you breathe better. Still going to stop breathing, and you really belong in a bed. is what we tell them. So insomnia is a common sleep complaint, and here lately, and you've heard me refer to it, we used to think insomnia was just having trouble falling asleep, but over the last 5 to 7 years, what we've seen is a lot of people fall asleep okay, but they don't stay asleep. So that's one of the things that we've really been battling on the sleep medicine front, is how do we help people get relaxed enough that once they fall asleep, they stay asleep. And what do we do when people wake up 2-3 hours before their alarm and the brain starts working, right? So we hear a lot of that, and that's actually medical insomnia as well. So we're going to talk about some tips and tricks to work on that. And of course, all of us go through insomnia once in a while, stress, financial problems, death of a family member, things like that. It's very normal for changes in life to disrupt your sleep. What's not normal is when it's going on for a long period of time and it starts affecting your health and your ability to do your daily activities from a day-to-day basis. Restless leg syndrome, we've seen this increase both in men and women. Women usually have it more than men because it is linked a lot of times to a low iron level in our blood, but we are testing more males and we seem to across the board have lower blood iron. So if you are having restless legs at night, which is when your legs are uncomfortable and you have to move them. A lot of my patients explain it as like a creepy, crawly, electrical feeling in their legs where they have to get out of bed and walk for it to go away. If you're having that, one of the probably the most efficient and quickest ways to find out why is having your blood tested for iron, because that will make it a lot worse. Caffeine makes it worse. Alcohol, nicotine, really any stimulant late at night can make your restless legs worse. And unfortunately, sleep deprivation makes it worse. So if you're having trouble getting to sleep because you're getting up to try to solve your restless legs and shortening your sleep time at night, that also could be a problem. Again, one of the main things you want to ask your doctor is, could this be linked to my blood iron, whether you're male or female? Because we've had a lot of patients just add an iron supplement, and that really helps the restless legs as well. There are prescription medicines for this, but those come with a lot of side effects. I think that's one thing we've learned during COVID too, is every single prescription that they advertise on TV has a list of side effects that sound worse than the disease or the syndrome that they're treating. So we like to look at some natural cures first before we would refer anyone to have a prescription for it. All right. I saw a yawn, which is good.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. I'm asleep. I like yawning. So I'm going to give you a little quiz. If you don't have paper and a pen, you can kind of just add this up in your head. There's only a few questions. And I probably, if we get everybody's email, I can email this out to them right
Yeah,
too.
I
We
can
do
send
it
it.
afterwards. So if you wrote your email address on there, we'll make sure you get this quiz. This is called the Everest Sleepiness Scale, and I know my printing on there didn't come out too well, but I know it by heart, well, close enough. That I'm going to read you a scenario, and I want you in your head to grade yourself. I want you to think about, and we're not going to talk about your answers or grade your quizzes. I just want you to think about how sleepy you are. And I want you to be very honest with yourself on this, because this is a very important screener. If you're honest about it, it actually will give you a very accurate score on whether you should probably talk to your doctor about being sleepy or not. And this is so accurate that insurance companies will actually pay for a sleep study based on a person's score, which is amazing, because I don't know if you noticed lately, but insurance companies don't pay for anything. But if we put an Epworth sleepiness score on the patient's chart, I've never seen it be denied. It's amazing, but that's the clinical justification for this is just extremely accurate. So I'm going to read you some scenarios. I want you to grade yourself between a 0 and a 3. A 0 being there's no way I would fall asleep in that scenario. A 1 being I might. A 2 being probably. And a 3 saying, yeah, if you put me in this scenario, I'm falling asleep. Okay? So it's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's only a few questions. It's less than 10. So I'll go slow and you just add in your head, okay? What is the chance of you dozing if you are sitting and reading? Everybody got your number? Yeah? Okay. All right, now add to that what the chances are of you sleeping if you're just sitting down watching TV. Everybody got your new total? Okay. What about sitting inactive in a public place, such as a meeting or a theater? Okay, got your new total? As a passenger for 1 hour in a car without a break. You're not driving. So, new total? You good? Okay. Lying down to rest in the afternoon when circumstances permit. Saturday afternoon, just lounging. What are the chances you fall asleep? How about sitting and talking to someone? It depends on the person. Everybody got your new total? Okay. How about sitting quietly after lunch without alcohol? And last but not least, when you're in a car well stopped for a few minutes in traffic, and this is driving. Somebody goes, oh, you got it.
I was doing so well.
Yeah. So if you scored 10 or above, I would recommend you talking to your doctor. No one in this room is old enough to be that sleepy. Everybody smiles when I say that because what's one of the things we rationalize our sleepiness on? Age. Yeah. It's probably because I'm getting older. No, it's not. You don't have to be that tired. In fact, you actually need less sleep when you get older. We just as a society, everything that goes wrong, my knee, my back, and my mood, everything is age, right? Now, if you scored a 10 or above, so if you scored a 10 to a 12, you're considered borderline. Anything above 12, we need to find out what's making you sleepy, and we can fix it. Let me show you how. This is my sleep lab. Isn't it pretty? I like to show it off. We made it look like kind of a hotel room. It's just a hotel you come to and we put a bazillion wires on your head and then tell you to go to sleep, right? They all have private bathrooms with showers. And this is all the data we look at. And because I want to have plenty of time for question and answers, I'm going to keep going through this. But I like to show this part, and you can barely see this. This is 30 seconds of your sleep. And the reason I like to show you this is not because I expect you to know what that means, but I have so many people come in for a sleep study and think we just watch you sleep. We really collect a ton of data, and we can tell when you're asleep, when you're awake, what level of sleep you're in, what your muscles are doing, what your heart is doing, what your chest is doing, what your stomach is doing, what your legs are doing. We watch it all. And what we do is we go through every 30 seconds of your 6 to 7 hour to 8 hour period that you're with us. And we stage every 30 seconds as a stage of sleep. Let me skip through that. And I like to explain it as a stair step. So a lot of people think we're just either awake or asleep. But what we actually do is when we fall asleep, you can think of it as going down a set of stairs. We go down to a level 1 sleep, that's where the hypnagogic hallucinations start, by the way. And then 2, which is where we stay the majority of the night. And then 3 is a deeper, we don't have 4 anymore, we combine 3 and 4. 3 is called slow wave sleep. Children and teenagers have a lot of that. As we get older, we don't need it so much because there's a lot of growth hormone and different things, but we need some. And what we usually see is people over the age of 40 hardly get any because their sleep is so interrupted. But as you can see, as we go down, and then of course there's REM, which is dreaming, and that's those yellow blocks. But we go through those cycles actually 5 times. So we go down, we come back up, we go down, we come back up. We do that 5 times per night. So what we do at the sleep lab is we hook you up to all these sensors, and then we take all that data and we analyze it every 30 seconds. And we see what percentage you stay in each of these stages. And what we do is we take your stair steps and your cycles and we compare it to what a normal person would look like. By the way, there's no such thing as normal. I've never seen that yet. But we compare it to that. And if, say, you only have 10% of slow wave sleep, and someone your age should really have 30% slow wave sleep, then we look at what is keeping you from getting that correct percentage. Is it sleep apnea? Is it restless legs? Are you kicking? Are you moving? Are you acting out your dreams? Are you snoring? What problem are you having that you're not staying in those different stages long enough? Is the dog barking? Is the kids coming into the bedroom? Is it your spouse that's snoring and waking you up? Is it the TV on? Is it, we have to look at all of that. So there's internal reasons you might not be getting that correct amount of sleep, and there's external. So we're going to talk about some things really quickly that we do to sabotage that, right? To sabotage the quality of sleep. Because as far as quantity of sleep, everybody says, textbook 8 hours, right? A lot of people can get by on 6 or 7. I know people that try to get 10 and they're still exhausted because their quality of sleep is so interrupted that instead of getting down to that deep sleep that they need, they kind of just stay on those first 2 steps because every time they start getting lower, something wakes them up and they have to start all over again. Caffeine, as I drink my Starbucks. I'm trying to get better at it too, but this is really So our bodies can handle, they just up the milligrams to 400, but I still preach about 300 milligrams. I've had people come in and tell me it doesn't affect them at all, and that they drink 6 pots of coffee throughout the day. And then I look at them and I say, okay, so why are you here? Why would you come in here and get all wired up if it doesn't affect you at all? Again, we tend to rationalize things. We want to be different, right? Caffeine affects us, all of us, in one way or another. Just because you don't feel hyper, or if you sleep, you can go to sleep after drinking a cup of coffee with dinner, it still wakes you up and causes those problems within the cycles. One of the things I recommend is just writing it down for 2 weeks. Just challenge yourself. I'm going to write down all the caffeine I take in daily for 2 weeks. And then you be the judge. Are you under 300 milligrams or are you 6 or 7 milligrams? You have to count all of these things. Everything we put in our mouth that has caffeine can cause that stimulant reaction in our bodies and affect our sleep. Just to give you a guideline, a regular styrofoam cup full of coffee is about 60 milligrams. Going to Starbucks and getting one of these, you have just shot your whole day and maybe a little bit more if it's full of coffee. It's very strong. Read all your labels, even on your vitamins. I got a vitamin about 3 or 4 years ago from GNC. A young man was in there and he said, oh, this is on sale. This is good. Women's metabolism. I said, okay, let's do it. So I'm always trying to get healthier. I take my vitamins at dinner, and for 2 nights I laid in bed looking like that cat. And I couldn't figure it out because I sleep very well. It's my field. So I try to follow all my own rules. I didn't realize that the vitamin he had sold me had 2 cups of coffee in each pill. And I'm really sensitive to caffeine, so I don't usually drink it after 4 in the afternoon. So I had to change my vitamin or start taking it in the morning when I had enough time. But sometimes they sneak it in on us, so you have to be very careful and read all your labels. Nicotine is also a stimulant. If you smoke and you want to stop, OSU has some great resources for you. But if you don't smoke, or you know a family member that smokes and having sleeping problems, one of the best things for a smoker, if they're not ready to stop yet, is to cut out that evening cigarette. Because at bedtime, it's very relaxing to them to smoke. The act of it is relaxing. Unfortunately, the drug that they're inhaling in their body is a stimulant. So about an hour and a half after bedtime, it's hitting their brain waves and keeping them from getting into that deep sleep. Alcohol. A lot of people use alcohol to bring them to the relaxed state. I'm not going to argue because I know a lot of cardiologists that still recommend that glass of wine with dinner, which is fine. You have to be careful because it can cause dependence, and you have to be careful with how much you drink. We've had some patients bring 6-packs into the lab. The reason they've done that is because our doctors tell them we want you to have a normal day. And to them, a normal day is drinking 6 beers before bed. Alcohol causes amazing disturbances to your brainwaves. Once you metabolize it, number 1, you have to wake up and go to the bathroom. And number 2, once you fall back asleep, the alcohol, when it's metabolizing, just messes the stairs up more than any drug I've ever seen. Not saying to go do meth over a Bud Light. However, as far as our sleep goes, alcohol really does mess with the quality of our sleep as far as staying down into that deep sleep. Sorry, with my meth thing. I teach a lot of outpatient addicts at OSU East about sleep. They're one of my best classes, and we talk about that. So the meth joke usually is for them. But alcohol is very bad on your sleep. A question I usually get is, should I eat before bed, right? We definitely don't want you to go to bed starving. We definitely don't want you to go to bed with lasagna, garlic bread, salad, and chocolate cake right before bed either. So if you're dieting like we all are and watching what we eat and being healthy, you definitely don't want a lot of calories before bed, but 7 or 8 hours is a long time to go without food if you're very, very hungry. So the act of being very hungry at 3 or 4 in the morning can actually wake you up into that lighter sleep as well. So we do recommend that if you're very hungry because you ate dinner at 5, but you're not going to sleep till 11, a healthy snack such as some string cheese and a handful of almonds, so a nice protein carb ratio balance like that, maybe a small sandwich, not a Dagwood with all the spicy salami on it. That's a good thing to do before bed if you're really starving. Avoid foods that cause indigestion. It is true, if you're eating a lot of spicy food right before bed, it will affect your dreams a little bit or make them really vivid. You could have GERD and acid reflux and all that, so you want to stay away from that. And then I always put a question mark by warm milk, because it used to be that they said that's just a myth, that it doesn't help, but then they just released a research project like last year at OSU, that if you're on hold, the little lady that talks to you about health, she actually says that the research showed that warm milk does relax some people. There's a chemical that then when you warm it up. So I put a question mark because the jury is still out on that one. However, the turkey at Thanksgiving is a myth. You cannot eat enough tryptophan. You'd have to eat like 4 turkeys all by yourself. The reason we get tired at Thanksgiving is the carbs that we eat. I would love to tell you otherwise, but it's not the turkey. All righty, finishing up, and then we'll go over some questions and answers. But I want to talk to you about your environment. So the bedroom you actually sleep in should be a sanctuary. It should only be a place where 2 things, both start with an S, happen. I'll let you figure out the other one. Mine is sleep. So this is where I usually make enemies. If you go home tonight and you're like, that crazy lady made some sense, I'm going to try some of the stuff she said, the number 1 most effective thing you can do is get the TV out of your bedroom. And that's when people usually tell me, no way. What do you mean? What is a bedroom without a TV? And I've heard all of the answers. You don't watch it. You use your timer. It doesn't bother you. The sound makes you fall asleep. That's all well and good. But the TV emits a light that's very close to that wonderful yellow thing that's shining in here right now. And as animals, biologically, we get our cues from the sun. When it's up, our bodies react to that and we stay awake. When it goes down, we fall asleep. So if you have the TV on in your bedroom as you're falling asleep, you are essentially sending your brain a signal to stay awake. And even if your eyes are closed, that light's coming through your eyelids. I can prove it. If you close your eyes and look up and go like this, you are going to see your fingers. Our eyelids are very thin. They take in light even when they're closed. So the TV being on is very bright. You know this because when you drive through your neighborhood at night, you can tell exactly who's watching TV. That light just is flashing. It's okay to listen to sound. You can turn the TV picture off and listen to the sound. Or you can purchase white noise or play an app on your phone that has oceans and waves or whatever you like to listen to. That doesn't interrupt your sleep as much as the light itself. Screens in the bedroom are bad. That is the reason Facebook at 3 a.m. is not going to help you, other than to let all your friends know that you couldn't sleep on Tuesday night. But it's not, when we get on our phones, when we turn on our TVs, that light is going to start fighting against our chances of falling back asleep. So let's get in really quick into, I cannot shut my thoughts off to fall asleep, because when I talked about this part earlier, I saw a lot of you kind of not. God bless you. So one thing is, if you don't do this already, second to taking the TV out of your bedroom, meditation, prayer, deep breathing, getting relaxed before you fall asleep is going to help you tremendously. God bless you. One of the things that we expect our bodies and brains to do is to fall asleep like that. Just like if I reached over and turned that computer off. We're not wired that way. That's why when we were raising our kids, taking care of grandkids, the babies had a routine, remember? Like on the dot, 7:30 p.m., you bathe the baby, you rock the baby, warm bottle, story. We did that for a reason. That helped the babies and the kids fall asleep. It was a routine. And then somewhere along the line, as adults, we lost that. Does anybody have a wind down routine? Yeah, awesome. Most of us don't. Good for you. Good job. Keep that up. No, it's
Drinking,
well,
it's smoking.
watching TV. Yeah, I would encourage everyone to do something, even if it's 15, 20 minutes before bed. You start that pre-sleep routine. My husband's got this nice little tune that plays on his phone at 10:30 to tell him, hey, turn the TV off. Go do some deep breathing. Go relax. What happens is when you lay in bed and you're like this, and you're like, did I forget to pay that? Did I need to do this? What do I got to do tomorrow? Oh my gosh, I forgot to call her. When you're doing that, you're tensing up. You're not paying attention to your breathing. You're not relaxed. You're going to fall asleep because we're exhausted, right? But if you go to bed in a tense state with your brain running, chances of you waking up in a few hours with your brain still running are very high. Very high. Yes?
I do have a routine. I write a shit list the night before, what I have to remember in the morning because I'm not going to remember.
That is awesome. And you have a mask on. So
S-H-I-T-T.
I was going to say, let me clarify it. Did you say shit list? Because I love that. I'm going to use that in my slides. Make a shit list. Because guess what? All that shit is going to be there in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that way, if you do wake, that's excellent, by the way. If you wake up in the middle of the night and you start to worry, which we all do, that you forgot something or you're going to forget something, if you wrote it on your list, all you have to do is, it's on my list. It'll be there in the morning. I had a patient that has a 6-foot vase outside of her room. She was having trouble waking up every night, 2 to 3 hours before her alarm. What the key was for her is she said, Danny, every night I would mentally and visually take all my problems, put them in that vase, and not take them into the bedroom with me because I knew I could pick it up in the morning. Don't take it to bed with you. It's not a good bed partner. It really isn't. So the more you practice this, the easier it'll get. Meditation, when they first showed me this, we talked about meditation like 5 years after I started sleep. I was like, oh, you guys are too new age, blah, blah, blah. And then I started it. Wow. If you can make yourself relax mentally and physically, you've got it made. You've got it made because if you wake up in the middle of the night, you'll retrain yourself. You won't start worrying. You won't start thinking about those problems. In fact, instead of looking at the clock and doing math, because each one of you have done this, I promise, you wake up, first thing we do, look at the alarm or look at the clock. And then you say to yourself, if I go back to sleep right now, I'll have 2 hours and 22 minutes until guess what? If you just activated the part of your brain that does math, it doesn't want to go back to sleep. So don't. You don't need to know what time it is. Who cares if you only have 10 minutes until the alarm goes off? Make those 10 minutes relaxing. Train yourself when you do wake up, instead of falling victim to the time and the math and all that, even if you have to go up to the restroom, try to stay as closed eyes as possible without hurting yourself. Try to get back to bed without much light, not looking at a screen, and just relax, do your breathing. I'm telling you, you can YouTube a bunch of meditation videos and everything, but everybody could start it tonight. All you got to do is think about your breathing. That's what counting sheep is, by the way, is just breathing. You know, it's relaxing on things other than all your worries. Deep breaths, in for 7, hold for 4, out for 8. Do that 3 or 4 times, get your body relaxed, and just go back to sleep. It really is that easy. If you are laying in bed for what you think is an inappropriate time awake, instead of going to Facebook or instead of turning the TV on, go out in a different room and do something relaxing until you fall asleep. Even if it's praying, meditating, even reading, as long as it's an old-fashioned book and not a screen, that once you feel yourself getting relaxed and nodding off, go back in the bedroom and go to sleep. The reason I say that is our brains are so amazing that we attach things to the space we're in. For example, when you came in this room tonight, no one thought we were going to do mini golf, right? You knew you were going to have a class, a meeting. We're set up. We've got the screens. We have the chairs. Your brain knew what it was going to do. If you walk into your bedroom and your brain sees screens and activities and all this commotion, it's not going to think it's time for me to relax because all this stuff is going on. So usually insomnia is born of the environment being too, what's the word I'm looking for? Distracting, too much activity and not relaxing enough. So think about that tonight when you go to bed, is my bedroom as relaxing and peaceful as it could be. A sanctuary, so to speak. What about naps? I threw that in there because I have a lot of people ask me about naps. If you're having trouble sleeping, are naps okay? In my book, naps are awesome. Especially if you feel like you're coming down with something, if you're stressed out, grab a nap. Here's the trick about a true nap though. Set your alarm for 1 hour. Yeah, that's the problem. Have you ever slept 2 or 3 hours and you feel worse you know why? Your body thought you were starting that 5 cycle thing, and because you're not, it's mad at you. I promise you. Set your alarm for 1 hour. Get up when your alarm goes off. You're not going to want to, because you're going to say to yourself, oh, I was just starting to sleep so good. Get up, move around. In about 10 minutes, you're going to feel the energy from that nap surge in. You don't want to sleep more than 1 hour, because if you start getting into that deep sleep of REM, which usually happens about 1 hour and 20 minutes to 1 hour and 30 minutes after you fall asleep, your body will be mad at you because you woke it up out of that cycle. Does that make sense? That's a true power nap. At work, we do them for about 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. Even my night shift, who's there now, getting patients ready for bed. They'll go on lunch breaks or whatever. They'll say, hey, can you watch my patients? And they'll say, sure. They'll go lay down for 20, 30 minutes, and somebody will come in and get them, and they're so refreshed. Night workers have done so much better if we can give them 20 to 30 naps once a night, because it just gives you that surge of energy. So what questions do you have for me? I feel like I've been blah, blah. I want to hear from you. What are you struggling with?
Staying asleep.
Staying asleep. Yes. Same.
And I was, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask about melatonin.
Great question. Melatonin's fine. Our bodies make it. What we don't understand is you don't need a lot of it. It's another American Western culture thing. It's what we do. We think if 5 milligrams is good, I'll take 20. Don't do that. It won't hurt you, but you're wasting your money and your time. And the reason I say that is I've gone to Walgreens recently and I see this NeuroSleep water with melatonin in it, and it's got some ungodly amount, and you're really just paying for water. Then you're going to just urinate the melatonin out, because your body only needs a few milligrams. So I think our doctors usually start someone around 3 milligrams a night and maybe up to 5 milligrams. And you want to do what timing is right for you. For example, my medical director, he takes melatonin on Sunday nights with his dinner because he's noticed that he likes to stay up late on Saturday and sleep in on Sunday. So he has a little trouble going to sleep on Sunday night, which makes him grouchy and sleepy on Monday. So the melatonin shifts that for him, and he can go to bed even if he slept in late. Melatonin is really good for jet lag, and it's really good for teenagers because they have a delayed phase syndrome. A lot of us always thought that teenagers were just being rambunctious and staying up late on purpose. It's actually their biology. They get delayed phase syndrome. Almost every teenager does as they're going through puberty. But yes, melatonin is good. You only need about 3 to 5 milligrams. They do make a slow release tablet that came out that our patients are having a lot of luck with too, that have trouble staying asleep, because it'll release some melatonin before you go to bed, and then also it'll release a little bit more as you're sleeping.
Do you know who makes that one?
I do not, I'm sorry. But if you put time release melatonin in the internet, I guarantee it'll come up.
And 3 to 5 milligrams, and how far is it bedtime?
That's a great question because it differs for people. Some people will tell me I take it right before bedtime, about a half hour, because I feel like it makes me sleepy. I personally don't think melatonin can kick in that fast. I think it's kind of a placebo effect. And then some people will tell me they take it about 2 to 3 hours before bed because it takes longer. So it's just kind of playing around with it. I'm telling you, as you go through this, as you tweak things about your routine and your sleep, journaling is one of the best things you can do for any aspect of your health. And it's cheap. Go to the dollar store, get a notebook, and start writing down 1 or 2 things you're going to change about your sleep, about your diet, and about your exercise. Track it for 2 weeks, and you'll be amazed at going, oh, I felt really good this week, and this is because I did this. And it really kind of helps as we're aging, things change. We've got menopause going on, and illnesses come along and different things. It really helps you tweak as you go, because we never really fix everything. I hate to tell you. We're always trying to get better, right? We're always trying to get healthier. And notebooks, a dietitian showed me that. A dietitian said, hey, when you start to see yourself gain weight, I did because of COVID, I'll tell you that right now. But when you see yourself gain weight, start just writing down for 2 weeks, no judgment, what you eat and drink. And then look back at all your data and see if there's hidden calories that you don't even realize you're drinking, such as Starbucks drinks. When I first went to a dietitian, one of the major things that helped me lose weight is I cut out high calorie drinks that I didn't even realize I was drinking more calories than I was actually eating. Very good questions. Yes?
What about, my one sister takes magnesium,
Mm-hmm.
but then my other sister said her doctor told her, don't take that, only because she takes like a leave or something that interferes with the absorption. Do you know anything about it?
I do not. And I'm one of those people that I'm afraid to ever try to wing it, so I have no idea. I do know magnesium helps the absorption of calcium. We have a lot of our menopausal patients come in that have told us, you know, and my doctor told me too, if you're taking calcium, to take magnesium because it helps absorb it. I don't know about a leave.
Do topical CBD products interfere with sleep?
We don't have enough information and research about them yet. We have a lot of patients that they tell me that it relaxes them and helps them ease their pain at night, especially at night. So for them, it seems okay, but medically, it's such a newer product that I don't have enough research to share that yet. I hope to, though. They're doing a lot more research on it now. Yeah.
We had a virtual question.
Yes.
So I think you kind of talked about this, but does insurance typically cover sleep study? And do you need a doctor referral to get one?
Great questions. I'm going to do the doctor referral first. Most insurance companies want a referral to the sleep doctor from your primary care physician. Otherwise, it might not get paid for. There's a few that don't require it, but most do. And that's the workflow of that is you would go to see the sleep doctor first. They're considered a specialist, and they would talk to you for about an hour during the day, and then they would decide whether you would need to come to the lab for a sleep study, or we also do home sleep studies.
Mm-hmm.
So if sleep apnea is really the only thing your doctor's concerned about, they can do a home sleep study, which is a device you take home, and they show you how to put a few little sensors on, and they're very accurate for sleep apnea, and that can be done. And insurance companies usually do cover under outpatient diagnostic, just like an x-ray, but you would have to check with your plan to see what percentage if it's like 80-20 or if there's a copay.
But so your primary care doctor would refer you to the sleep specialist.
Correct.
And then, okay.
Yes. And we, of course, I work at OSU, so I think we have the best sleep lab, but there's great sleep labs. Ohio Health has a great sleep lab. Children's has a great sleep lab to the point where we won't take anybody 18 or under because Children's has a wonderful sleep department. Columbus has so many great resources and facilities. So I don't just preach about OSU sleep lab, even though it's the best one. We have sleep labs all over Columbus that it's the same thing. You have to be referred by your primary care physician. What other questions do you have? Is anyone going to go home and change anything? Maybe tweak it a little bit?
I think get out my melatonin bottle.
Get out the melatonin? That's okay. Yeah. Yes.
So I've got a couple questions, but
Sure.
one question for my husband who snores a lot. You talked about pillows. Is it about trying to get his head higher
Yes.
that will try to help?
Yes, most people, if it's not sleep apnea related, it could be a crowded airway. So we have a lot of patients that we refer to ENT doctors to see if maybe they have adenoids or tonsils are swollen, and they've actually have a surgery for that. But as far as helping it not be as severe, most people sleep worst on their back. And what's funny is most of us will turn to our back sometime during the night. That's a very natural state for us to sleep in. So a lot of people use wedge pillows to keep them on their side because they usually snore less on their side because we don't have that weight pushing against our airway when we're on our side. And then, yes, the secondary thing would be to elevate the bed. But you don't want to elevate it too far. I wouldn't go more than maybe 30 degrees, and the wedge pillows can help with that too.
So first would be sleep on the side.
Yeah.
Second would be to get that more of the
Yes.
head up a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if he doesn't have sleep apnea, an ENT doctor could take a look and see if there's anything else they could use proactively to open up his airway.
Okay.
Great questions, you guys.
Gotta watch pillows though, because if you've already got a neck problem or a
Mhm.
shoulder
Right.
problem.
Exactly. And you end up, when I use them, I'll use them when I'm stuffed up from our wonderful allergy season we had this year. Poor Ohioans, I think we have allergies worse this year than we ever have. But a lot of times if I elevate using two pillows or a wedge, I'll still wake up all kind of like slumped over because your body loves to lay flat when you sleep. It's just our natural state. Any other questions? Yes.
Sometimes I go through these really weird cycles where no matter what I do, can't fall asleep till like between 2 and 5 o'clock in the morning. So then you kind of sleep too long if you have the opportunity. So then the next day though, you're really tired and you fall asleep, and then the next day I'm back to that 2 to 5. And maybe I'll go through that for like a couple months.
Really?
And I'll go back to normal sleep. And then a couple months later, I'll go back into that weird.
Have you ever tracked it to see if it relates to the transition of the seasons, like when we set the clocks ahead and set them back? Because we have noticed, and we've talked about this a lot, and since sleep is, again, kind of a baby field of medicine, they're still doing research, but we're all timed to a circadian rhythm, right? And when we jump ahead or jump back and the sun changes for us, some people are so sensitive that that'll throw them into a kind of a loop where they're trying to get to sleep, but they wake up. So it might help to kind of track what's going on when you have those kind of glitches and see if it's maybe related to that. But when you do, melatonin might help for that also, definitely. But kudos on that sleep routine. It's so important. If you can't get the TV out of your bedroom, the sleep routine. I've had patients struggle with sleep. They tell me they haven't ever slept good, and they do something that's a simple, consistent routine, and their body loves it. The other thing you can do is we can't control what time we fall asleep, but we can control what time we wake up. Okay, does that make sense? We cannot control the time we fall asleep. I could offer all of you $1 million to fall asleep in the next 30 seconds. I could have you all wired up so you couldn't cheat. But just the fact that I'm offering you $1 million to fall asleep in the 30 seconds would prevent everyone in this room from falling asleep. We sabotage ourselves because the more you try to fall asleep, that's why it's so important that if you feel yourself get frustrated or angry because you can't fall asleep, cut it right there. Go out in the room, go do some deep breathing. Because once you have that cycle of frustration after frustration, I have some patients, bless their hearts, they come into me and say, I start worrying about falling asleep at lunchtime. And I'm like, oh my God. So no wonder by the time they get in bed, they're so scared they're not going to fall asleep that they're just working against themselves. So, but our brains are really sensitive to that. So I cannot stress enough that trick of relaxing, because we're not taught that, at least not our generations are. Kids coming up, we're starting to tell them, hey, this is how you relax, deep breathing, meditation. That is important stuff. And I hate to use the word meditation because a lot of people have this connotation of you have to be the guy up on the mountain going home. It doesn't have to be. Meditation's just quiet time where you're focused on your breathing. One of my patients said, I've become a master of breathology. I study my breathing, and that's exactly right. Once you focus on that, and once you start telling your shoulders to relax, your jaw to relax, and you're deep breathing, and you're thinking about your muscles, and you're thinking about relaxing, your mind's so powerful, it can relax to where you go right back to sleep. But it's also powerful enough to start worrying and send you right back the other way. Yes?
Are you suggesting that you have control over when you wake up?
Oh, yes.
Sure that
Thank you. There's my ADD. Because I did start with a
Thanks,
point.
Diane.
Yes, thank you. You guys are my Ritalin tonight. You can control what time you wake up. So if you are struggling staying asleep or when you hit those patches, make yourself wake up the same time 7 days a week. Whether you've had 4 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep. Because your body loves routine. Now on the weekends or on your days off, if you want to sleep in an hour, go ahead, treat yourself. But don't sleep. What we see patients do is when they bring us their sleep diaries for 2 weeks and hand it to us, Monday through Friday, they get up at 6, Saturday and Sunday, they sleep till 9 or 10. That throws your whole schedule off and it makes those rough patches even worse. So your body will get used to it. You might have some tired days. Take a little power nap, you'll be okay, but wake up the same time 7 days a week. And that usually will reset as well. I'm really sensitive to daylight savings time. So I always have trouble in the spring and in the fall for a week or two. But the best tool I use is setting that wake up time every day. And then I can get myself back into a solid routine faster that way.
Because you can't really catch up on sleep.
No.
So I'll catch up on the weekend.
Yeah, you can't.
Can't do
And
it.
usually catching up just throws you into a bigger problem when Monday rolls around. Yes.
You've done it for a little over an hour without recommending better sleep through chemistry. And I think that's a very commendable patient.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I heard such horror stories about Ambien.
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. And I do want to stress that if you're going through a hard patch, if you're stressed out, like there's life happens and there's problems that will keep you awake. Ambien and Lunesta are supposed to be for those rough patches. Unfortunately, they become 10 and 15-year-long addictions. And I hate to say that, but that's what they are. That's what they are. We have patients that will call us panicked if they can't get their Ambien, or if they've run out, or they've literally talked themselves into saying, there's no way I can sleep without this medication. And it's not true. Because our minds are so powerful, yeah. But it becomes almost a placebo too, and they are. There's horror stories. I have seen people, when I showed you those brain waves, I have seen people hooked up to the machine, data coming in, they're in stage 2 sleep, and they're standing up, urinating into the trash can because of Ambien. Because it just makes their brain not know, okay, my brain's asleep, but my body's not. Like we've had terrible reactions to it. And I'm just the kind of person where, again, prescriptions are fine, but if we can do it naturally, or we can get people off of prescriptions that are causing such bad side effects, then we're going to sleep healthier. So thanks for pointing that out. We do try it. I don't want to say it's bad to take sleep aids. It's just bad to take sleep aids when you don't need them. They're supposed to be short.
Sleep in the sleep clinic with all those wires on you.
You know, that's a great question, and everybody asks it, including the 14 people that are there tonight. I bet some of them have already asked, right? By the time you get to the sleep lab, you're so tired, and my staff is so good, you fall asleep. In fact, one of the main ways we convince people, we tell them, your job is not to sleep here. And they'll look at us all weird. Your job is just to relax, because you can't make yourself fall asleep. So if we can get you relaxed, are you going to sleep as fast as you do at home? Probably not. Although some people do better because they don't have their spouse in bed. They don't have the dog in bed. I've heard that some people sleep with ferrets and with 65-inch screen TVs. We do make you turn the TV off, which does upset some people. Oh, I've heard stories. I could go on till 9 o'clock tonight with the stories I've heard of what goes on in people's bedrooms. That's what keeps me in this job, by the way. It's so interesting, right? But yeah, so that's a very common question. And the funny thing is, people be like, well, you're not going to get an accurate report because I didn't sleep tonight like I do at home. We don't look at how long you sleep or how fast you fall asleep. We do collect that, but the main thing we're looking at is what your brain does and what your body does when you are sleeping. And we can usually tell that within an hour or two. We can usually diagnose you within the first 2 hours. We really could. But that would be mean of us to kick you out of our sleep lab at midnight and send you home. So we keep you all night long. But yeah, whatever you do at home, the minute you fall asleep in our lab, we can see it. We can see it. So you're right, it is a little bit difficult. And in an extreme case, the doctor will write for two Ambien or 2 Lunesta. I don't like patients to take them, but if that's the only way we can get you to sleep at the lab, they will do that as a last resort. But usually we can just tell you to deep breathe and relax, and you're so tired, and I'm telling you, my staff is so good. I'm so good. Some of the best techs I've ever met. They take good care. And we only have 2 to 3 patients per person. So you have this very one-on-one experience. And most of my patients report that they were very well taken care of and relaxed, and they fell right to sleep. Some of them email me the next morning saying, where did you get those mattresses? I want to get one for my bed. So yeah, we try really hard to make you relaxed. And then we usually can squeeze at least 4 or 5 hours out of most people. In my 21 years, I've only seen 7 people stay awake the whole night. And some of those, I think, were actually just trying to do it. Yes.
So then now, what's a norm, you said normal, most people 6 hours and 40 minutes. But I've heard 7 hours and 15 minutes was the perfect amount of sleep time.
Yes, they kind of backed it up from 8 hours to say 7.5. I know people, my husband can go on 7 hours and feel great. At 6.5, he's still perfect. Anything less than that, he starts dragging. I love sleep. I did not plan on staying in this career, but I love sleep. I love naps. I love sleeping. And I need about 7.5 hours. And this has really helped me because I get up here and preach all this great stuff, and then I wear this and find out that I'm not falling asleep like I think I am, or not staying asleep like I think I am. So it helps me adjust when I start feeling more down. I look at the report from my sleep app, and I'm like, sure enough, in May, I was sleeping 7 hours, 45 minutes. In June, I dropped down to 7 hours and 10 minutes average. And I could feel it. I didn't feel it, like a day or 2 later, but when you start going down, and it's easy to do. It's light outside till 9:30 at night now, so I'm outside and doing stuff until late, so it's easy to lose track. Some people, like I said, can get away with 6. I've had patients tell me that they sleep 4 to 5 hours every night and they're perfect. And then I start asking them, and they're usually divorced, bankrupt, don't have a car, and probably getting evicted. And I'm like, I don't think you're doing so good. I don't think you're doing as good on that sleep as you think you are. Usually you need at least 6.5, but 7 to 7.5 seems to be the magic point for everybody. But again, that changes. That changes for what you're going through. If you feel better on 8 hours of sleep, shoot for that 8 hours of sleep. And as we get older, we need less sleep. So the term geriatric, I hate, but they say that as we become geriatric, that we can get by with about 6.5.
I wonder what age that is.
I know. If you're pregnant, it's like at 40. I had a friend
Oh,
that,
it's 35.
is it 35?
Yeah, my friend has
Yes.
a geriatric pregnancy.
She
She's
called me.
35.
She called me crying after God. She's like, I'm a geriatric pregnant person. I'm like, what? She's 41. I'm like, you're not. Yeah, it backs up. But really, when it comes right down to it, and I preach this to my patients a lot, what works for you is not going to work for you. We make this mistake in Western medicine of just saying, okay, this whole room has diabetes, and this one pill is going to work for all of you. It's not the way it goes. We're all so different. So do exactly what feels good for you. If you're sleeping 8 hours and you're feeling great, stay at 8 hours. If you track yourself and you're sleeping 6 or 7 and you're feeling good, that's perfect. But watch, when you start feeling run down, look at your sleep first and think about it. Have I been sleeping less? And a lot of times over the last 3 or 4 weeks, you might notice you've been going to bed later or getting up earlier. Definitely.
So I talked about my husband, I'm gonna talk about me now.
Oh, good.
So my challenge is I will have the temperature at a comfortable temperature, and I wake up in the night, really hot.
Yeah.
Then I have to go to the bathroom, and then I have a hard time then falling back to sleep. Any thoughts or suggestions about that?
Temperature is really tricky because other than light, which we talked about, our second environmental factor that affects our sleep is temperature. In fact, our temperature drops twice every 24 hours. Once, and when I talk about our temperature, I'm talking about internally, not the one we take in our mouth. We'd have to take it somewhere else to tell this one. It's a core temperature. Our core temperature drops twice a day. The first time is right after lunch. So you know how a lot of people will say, man, I must have ate too much at lunchtime. I'm real tired. And we get sleepy at our desks or around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And we usually go grab a coffee or a candy bar. It's actually not what you ate for lunch. Usually it's our temperature drops around that time in the afternoon. Our core body temperature drops. And that's a signal for your body to be sleepy. The second time it drops is about 10, 11 o'clock at night. And that's when, in fact, right when you're about to go to bed, you ever feel your hands and feet get kind of chilly at night, even in the summertime? That's your body saying, hey, time to go to sleep. In fact, that's why we give the baby a bath. Because when we give the babies and toddlers a bath, when you take them out of the bathtub, the process of evaporation makes them cold in their core. So they're more likely to fall asleep. We didn't know we did that. We just thought we liked clean smelling babies. But that's actually why we give babies baths. So if you are having trouble falling asleep, about an hour before bed, if you take a warm bath, hot shower, and then let your body cool down, that can help your temperature. Temperature regulation during sleep, though, is extremely tricky. Unfortunately, the brainstem that handles REM, or dreaming, where that is controlled, is very close to our thermostat for our body. So a lot of times when we go into REM, we have no way of regulating our temperature. So that comforter or blanket that you got into bed with because you were chilly is now making you way too hot. So really it's just kind of tweaking that as well. One of the main arguments other than snoring between spouses is the temperature of the room. Men tend to run a lot warmer than women do, but the actual medically proven temperature that a room should be in for the most optimum sleep, guys, you're welcome, 65 degrees.
Oh, no, that was
65 degrees. Now, you can use a blanket, but as far as optimum sleep, your body loves to be cold when it's sleeping. So the colder, the better. And usually the guys are like, yes, I've been telling you for years it was too hot in that bedroom. 65 degrees with the blanket. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of research about menopause and women's hormones changing. And of course, that affects temperature. So the two questions I get a lot about women with menopause and pregnant women, I really don't have much help other than you just got to keep trying as far as regulating that temperature.
Do weighted blankets help?
Weighted blankets are wonderful for anxiety. Not a lot of research about how they affect your sleep yet, but in my book, anything that's natural and not chemical based that helps you relax and fall asleep, we're all for it. And weighted blankets are proven to make a lot of people feel less anxious. I have one at the end of my bed. I don't use it all the time, but if I do wake up in the middle of the night, that's rare, and I feel like I'm having trouble relaxing, I'll just kind of reach down and pull it up over me and start my breathing, and it feels like a hug. It really does, and we like those.
I've read that those can be dangerous if you've got small dogs sleeping with you.
Ah, I never thought of that because my dogs aren't allowed in my bed. Dogs sleep on a very different sleeping schedule than we do, by the way. So that's why a lot of my patients are like, but I love Fido sleeping with me. I'm like, I know you do, but you're affecting Fido's sleep and he's affecting yours. So what I try to get them to do is at least put them down on the floor at the end of the bed. And believe it or not, dogs don't mind. After a few nights of being upset, they usually get used to it and they'll sleep on the floor. But yeah, I would imagine that a Chihuahua and a weighted blanket are probably not a good combo.
Have you heard anything on the pillows that are now called chill pillows with their,
Oh, with the temperature? Yeah, I've seen those.
that works?
I don't have enough information to get on them but I would think with the temperature regulation, especially if they had one where you had the warm side, was when you went to bed, and then maybe if you woke up too hot, you could flip it to the cool side. I would imagine that would be helpful. Yeah. Get me on Shark Tank. Let's go. Let's go with that multi-pillows.
Yeah, because I think some has PJs that have
Yeah.
a cooling material, especially when you're going through menopause. So I know I have them. I think they've helped me, but just the material is
Yeah.
something.
Well, I was gonna say, it's past 7:15, so if people need to head out. You're willing to
Oh,
hang
yeah,
out for
I'm
the
willing
week.
to
So if
stay.
people want us to, if you want to hang out and ask any more questions, feel free.
Yeah.
But I want to give people also
Yeah.
just knowing that. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I just thank for all of you. This is amazing. Thank you so much for your time. It's so precious. And thank you for taking control of your sleep and keep going. Keep tweaking it. Keep writing things down. Keep learning about it. Same thing with diet and exercise. We're finally figuring out that those pillars are a foundation for health. Sleep, diet, and exercise. Don't ever quit looking at it. And one thing the same dietitian shared with me, she's amazing, by the way. She said, Danny, one of the reasons you fail at diet is because you say, okay, on Monday, I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to not eat after 7. I'm going to eat low carb. And she says, and you give yourself 60 things to change. And then in 2 weeks, when you're not living up to all that, you give up going, oh, I can't do it. She said, do one. Just do one for 30 days. Pick one. TV out of the bedroom, going to bed earlier, meditating. Just pick one, do it for 30 days. And if it's helping, great. Go pick another one. That works in exercise, diet, and sleep, all 3 of them. Because as we adopt those a year from today, you'll be like, wow, I've really improved all 3 of them. And it'll improve your health. If you want to stick around, feel free. But if not, feel free to go enjoy the last minutes of sunshine. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.